Hello, I am Bentham and welcome back to Factorio. We're doing some research on solar energy and such like, and what we're going to be doing at the beginning of this episode is continuing with what we're doing at the end of the last, which is to sort out the plastics. At the moment they're being produced over at our oil facility, and we need them over at the everything else facility, so I'm having to get a bunch of conveyor belts to transport it all the way along here, and the problem is there's a big copper deposit here. And at some point we're going to be mining this. We don't really want the plastic to be in the way, so I'm having to sort of skirt it around the edge, and it looks very ugly, but it'll do for now. And later on we'll come up with some sort of better solution. So we get it along to just next to the steel line, and from there we can just have it going along the outside of the steel line, and eventually it will connect up to the thing we set up on the other end. Unfortunately, we have to build the conveyor belts as we go because we run out, because I always underestimate the number of conveyor belts that we will need. But eventually we managed to drag our way over there and get it all connected up. So off it goes, going around onwards to the rest of the belt. So we just have to set up a splitter to get it all evened out and so on, and there we go, and off it goes, nice evenly spread on the belt, and that'll all be good. So anyway, we've entirely run out of iron doing all of those conveyor belts, so I have to quickly grab some more off the line, and then we go and upgrade our red signs production, because it was starting to run down just a bit, so we'll need just a bit extra to keep things going. And I decided that seeing as things look like they're going quite well at the moment, and just get some research done there, decide on logistics too. Now that seeing as science seems to be coping fine at the moment, I decided to add 2 more labs in, get all those connected up, get the conveyor belts going down, and of course, seeing as I just had to fix red science production anyway, we'll probably need to add in another assembler for each kind of science as well, and that should keep everything running fine. I'll be able to check up on that later to see if it's all nice and even and running well. So of course we get it connected to the power, and then everything's running, and hopefully the supply will be good enough. At the moment it looks like they're getting enough gears and circuits and so on, but I'll have to keep an eye on that, because later on we're going to need to upgrade things and so on and so forth. So anyway, just having a quick inspection of the line and everything, maybe resupplying and so on, and things like that, because I do keep running out of iron and things really fast. Anyway, you can see that gear production is going well, and it's also keeping circuit production well supplied, so that's good. So I decide to upgrade the assembler there to keep things going nicely. And we start getting research done on the railway, finally, in episode 4. That's the first train-related thing we've done so far, and by the end of the episode that should all be set up, and we'll be able to start working on some actual railway stuff, finally. So anyway, running back to the smelting area, I've realised that the iron supply was dropping, and it turns out it's because all the furnaces turned off, because I'm an idiot. So time to fix that, and I implement an idea that one of my subscribers suggested, which is that instead of resupplying each furnace individually, I get a chest and just have that go onto the other side of the line. Turns out the iron was only on one side of the line anyway, so it didn't cause any problems. So I grab a ton of coal so I can go and stick it in the chest, and also use it to refuel the other things, because at the moment I'll still have to refuel steel production, copper production, and I suppose stone production as well. I could hook more of it up to this system, but I can't be bothered really. This is all temporary, and eventually I'm going to actually get rid of all this. It's taken me longer than I expected. I probably should have done it by now, but I want to make sure that I've got it. I'm advanced enough and sort of ready, and I want to make sure I choose the right location for the smelting area, because it needs to be massive and have a lot of room to expand in it. So anyway, going back to the line, now that I've nicked a bunch of iron, the lines run down again. Also, we get automated rail transportation going, the second of the 3 rail transport research things. And I have a check of the science. And at the moment, it looks like we're having a bit of a problem with the supply of gears and circuits, because the iron has run down a bit after I nicked it all. Spotted a little bug there. You may have heard that horrible noise of placing the assembler a million times over. I might go alert the developers to that, because they did do a fix this particular update related to upgrading assemblers. So it does need. It's to be expected that something might go wrong there, because if it can go wrong, it will go wrong when it comes to game development. Anyway, it's getting dark, and I decided I'm going to actually fit some lights, because I'd not done that so far. So I plunked down 5 of them, and I'd craft another 5 to continue. But I guess I decided not to use those, because I just moved on to the next thing. So we've got circuits set up, and we've got the plastic supply coming, so it's time to work on the next bit of production, which is advanced circuits, which require plastics, circuits, and also some copper wire, so copper. So we get the circuit line connected up, and then we get the plastic line connected, going onto the same belt, and they'll go along and be picked up by the assembler for it to be turned into advanced circuits. But the thing is, we also need some copper wire, and rather than have a copper wire belt on the line, which I suppose wouldn't be too bad of an idea, but I'd prefer to have the copper wire crafted in situ, just to keep things less messy in that sense. So we're going to be making it on the line, and there you go, we got rail signal research done. We're going to be making the copper wire on the same line as the advanced circuits, so it's going to sort of deviate from the plan that I've been doing so far, which is to have everything scalable in one direction, so that I can expand it sort of infinitely. Not only theoretically, that there's limits on like how fast things can move on belts and stuff like that, but basically I want everything to be coming out sideways from this this line. But I'm sort of breaking from that a little bit with this, because the copper wire will be produced in the same line as the advanced circuits, and they'll move down from the copper wire assemblers to the advanced circuit assemblers. And if I ever need to expand copper wire production, then I will change over the assemblers just beyond them, from advanced circuits to copper wire, and keep expanding it like that. And in that way it works just fine as a scalable system. You just have to occasionally change something rather than just always adding things on. So I've got the assemblers set up and most of the stuff, but I have to go over and grab some more gears and circuits, because I'm getting fed up of having to build everything really slowly all the time. So we get the advanced circuits going, and I realise I've actually sort of messed up the plastic a bit, because it's only supposed to go a certain distance before it changes into an advanced circuit belt, because currently the only use for plastics is advanced circuits, so you just need to get them as far as the circuits, and then the belt is free and you can put advanced circuits on instead. So I get that connected up and off they go, and they'll slowly build up. At the moment it's only the one assembler going, and they are quite slow at crafting the advanced circuits, so it'll take a while, but at the moment we're not actually consuming them for anything, so we don't need to be producing that much. Later on, when we're doing blue science, we'll actually start needing to put a lot of advanced circuit assemblers in. Anyway, you can see I'm upgrading the circuit production now, because of course we've increased the consumption of circuits by putting in the advanced circuit system, and we probably need it anyway, because we've been slowly increasing the consumption of the various science well, only green science uses circuits or whatever. So the way I'm doing it is the method shown to me by a subscriber, which is where you have 3 copper wire assemblers going into 2 circuit assemblers, and that is the most efficient way. Everything's running non-stop if it's all supplied properly, so that's it's nice and simple and efficient. So I get that working and get all the inserters in the right place. But the thing is, gear production is taking up all the iron again. So I run back and have a check on the iron and everything, and it all seems to be fine. But I decide that we're going to have to add in another assembler, and really we should not assembler, a mining drill, and we should have done this a while ago, really, because we need the iron to be backed up to production, really, and if it isn't, then it means too much is being consumed, and we need to fix that. So I add in some more mining drills, and hopefully that'll help things. But at the end of the day, I'm going to be running along the line and stealing iron all the time, which will prevent any possibility of it backing up unless I really expand it. But anyway, I've spotted that the power is a bit down, so I'll run over to the generation area, see if there's anything I can do there. Consider solar panels, but the thing is I need accumulators to make them useful, so I decided I'm just going to set up another steam engine column. I think in my previous series I just ran on with all the steam engines going at full pelt for a while, and not meeting demand until I got solar set up. But I've decided with this one to be more just to use steam engines a bit more than I previously did. Anyway, you can see we just got rail signals research, which is good. And what I'm now going to work on is electric energy distribution, because of course we need that for accumulators, and if I'm going to start using a solar panel accumulator system, that's obviously what the next thing's going to be. We've got we've got the battery production research sorted out, so we can get on with that when the time comes. But at the moment we'll just add some more steam engines in. So I've added in one, and it wasn't quite enough, I don't think, so I added in a second one. And that's got everything fixed nicely, but I think, well, it's going to be a while yet before we get everything else set up, and I'm going to be expanding before then, so I'll just finish off the column and have it like that. So once that's done, I have a look at the coal line, and I can see that the coal is running down just a little bit, so I add in another mining drill to keep the supply up. The last thing we want is for the coal supply not to be good enough coming from the mining drills, because then the power will start to drop, the mining drills will slow down, and it's an endless cycle resulting in the system shutting down, which is why really you should have coal-powered coal mining, because then it self-replenishes and stuff like that. But I just like to do it that way. You can also go for the option of having a sort of backup power system that's off like uses a different grid than everything else, so that will continue running and supply the coal. But I can't be bothered with that either, because I usually switch to solar, and solar never fails unless it gets blown up or something, which the biters don't usually do because it's solar power and it's nice. So anyway, with the mining drills running at full speed again, I set up another furnace just to keep it smelted, and so on, and then grab some more coal to put back in the supply chest for the iron, and also to resupply all the other furnaces as well. So I just plonk all that in, and that'll be fine. And then I make my way along, stealing all of the iron once again to get myself nicely supplied. And then I make my way back over to the smelting area again. I've noticed that the copper supply is a bit down, because of course with circuits going faster and also advanced circuits starting, the copper consumption is starting to be actually like measurable. So we need to do a bit of upgrading there just to make sure that everything continues to run fine. So we get the an extra furnace and an extra mining drill down, and get that all working, and hopefully that'll all run fine. I assume it will, and keep everything nicely supplied for a while. So I decided to go over to the oil production, see how things are going there, and just check the fraction levels, and it turns out the petroleum gas is basically not there. It's all being used up as soon as it's created to be turned into plastics, which is a bit annoying. Anyway, I do something which has no effect on that, and add in another, add in a storage tank for the crude oil, just to allow a big buffer to develop. And then I decided to make the problem even worse by starting on sulfur production. At the moment, we're just going to have petroleum gas how it is. I mean, I could improve it, but I'm not going to do it quite yet. And also, once we get blue science going, we can research advanced oil processing, and we'll be able to turn the other oil fractions into petroleum gas to keep things nice and even and fine there. Though we probably will need to put in a new refinery soon enough. So anyway, we get a chemical plant set up, and a bit of research being done as well. We get a chemical plant set up to make sulfur, and then also want to make sulfuric acid from it, of course. Get that all connected up to a water pipe, put in a storage tank for the sulfur, and then get a chest set up that will put in the iron, because you need iron to make sulfuric acid. So I get that hooked up to power, get the sulfur going into the sulfuric acid, puts in some iron, and there we go. But the thing is, it's sort of not really a good system, because I need to come and carry iron over here to make it work. So I decide to deconstruct it and go for a different approach. And what I decide on doing is having the sulfur will stay produced over here, so that I don't have to pipe random oil fractions over to the production area. But what I'm going to do is send the sulfur over to my production area, and then it will have the iron will be readily accessible to sulfuric acid production. Of course, sulfuric acid is used in various products that will be made on the production line, because they're needed for like blue science and things like that. So it makes a lot more sense to actually just make the sulfuric acid on site and have it there. So I run back and well, the thing is, at the moment I don't want to have the sulfur being transported by belt, so I decided to just work on something else for a while and go back to that problem later on. It's not really urgent right now. I think it's used for batteries, isn't it, sulfuric acid? So I won't be able to do blue science and accumulators until I get that sorted out. But it's not yet that urgent. There's still a lot of red and green science to be done, and also there's more stuff to be done with. Well, the power system is running okay at the moment. It'll need fixing soon enough, though. So anyway, what I need for this new production line is some steel and some gears, and unfortunately there's not too much room, so I have to do a little trick with a splitter and an underground belt that doesn't look like it should work, but does, to just get things where I want them to go without having to expand anything. But that'll all be fine, and I start getting it set up. I get pipe production going, And then engines, because that's what this is for. We're going to make some engines because they're pretty useful now and we could do with them. And it's actually really easy to make them. I keep forgetting this. I always think of engines as being difficult to produce, but it's at the next level up, I think, electric engines, that is difficult because it needs sulfuric acid and things like that. This just needs various different products of iron. Gears, you just need gears, steel and pipes, so that's really easy. So I'll get it set up and hooked up to the power, and that'll just chug along slowly. It is a bit of a slow production process, that particular one, so I'll just have to leave it going and come back when there's actually a decent amount of it. So with the engine production sorted, I can wander off and do some other stuff. I can grab a bunch more in terms of gears and circuits, which actually runs down the entire belt, which isn't good, so I guess we need to do something there. At the moment the iron supply is fine for it, but I decided to add in another inserter to increase the rate at which gears are produced, because that's probably the most urgent thing, I suppose. So with that going, I can run off and do other things. I've ended up with a bunch of plastic in my inventory after I got rid of that section of belt that had it on to make room for advanced circuits, so I just dumped that all further up the belt where there's a lot of room, and let that flow down. And then I decided to put in some more copper production because, of course, circuits have just run down, so we probably need to make sure that the copper supply is nice and high and keeping things running nicely. So I stick in another mining drill and another furnace, and that should keep it going nicely for a while. Though that's now too much for these inserters here to handle, so I just cut them out. I can't be bothered putting in another buffer chest for that because it's sort of in the wrong place anyway, so I just leave it as it is. So back over to the power generation area. There's a lot of steam engines going now. I don't really like it. All this pollution going into the air. And this is sort of like the heart of the pollution over this lake that was sort of built around with the mining area and so on. So anyway, after checking the map, I realised that the radars have finished their work, so we can now get rid of them and go repurpose them elsewhere or whatever. The location they were in was just a temporary thing when we were sort of based in the generation area, but sort of not anymore. I might even move it towards the sea just so that the pollution is further away from the biters, because, you know, we sort of need to do that. So you can see I'm hooking up a nice new power system, proper electricity pylons instead of using all the little telegraph pole things everywhere. So that means that we've got a sort of backup system transporting power. We've got two different lines now, so if I start deconstructing and rebuilding stuff, there's less chance of things shutting down. So anyway, I just restocked the coal chest that is feeding the furnaces and so on, and I go over and grab some stone bricks to start making some walls, because the thing is, with the pollution cloud getting so big now, it's only a matter of time before the biters start actually launching proper offensives. So far we've had only one attack, but it's going to get worse before it gets better, I expect. So we're going to have to work more on our defences. And so I carry on with the wall that I started in the last episode, which I didn't finish because at the time we didn't have enough stone bricks. The production rate is a little bit slow as it currently stands. And seeing as they're not exactly being produced in the millions, I make sure to make exactly what I need and no more for the wall, and then I get the guns on, get the ammo in, and it's not much of a defense right now, but it's enough to tide us over until we get some better equipment and so on. So making my way back to production stuff, I decide to plonk down one of the radars again. The thing is, I don't want it to get in the way of the production line. I want to make a proper sort of grid of radars once I have a solar sorted, so I can make the outposts for them. And I don't want one of these outposts to be in the middle of the production area, because that will be a pain. So I end up plonking it sort of to the northeast of the area, and that will make sure that there's nothing in the middle of the production. So anyway, getting on with producing all sorts of stuff to get more research done, working on the effectivity module. I've missed that. It's been a while since I've seen those, because I had them at the end of last series in everything, and I plan to do that again in this one, because, you know, they're so useful, and the biters don't bother you when you've got effectivity modules in everything and solar power all over the place, because there's no pollution anymore. So anyway, I decided to improve our stone production just so we can get the walls done quicker, and we'll also use them for electric furnaces and things like that, which I still haven't upgraded to. I meant to upgrade to electric furnaces a while ago, and I sort of haven't got round to it. I want to make sure I've got enough. I want to sort of designate a big area for it and be able to defend it and things like that, and make sure it's all nicely set up. So we'll leave it a bit longer. And I also set up a mining drill just to mine the stone and not turn it into bricks, so that we have some. We're getting some electric engines now. We're getting a nice supply of them made, so that's good. We'll be able to make use of those. having to grab more iron and so on, because it's happening so much with this. But anyway, it's time to build our first steam engine, and it's just a display piece at the moment. We haven't set up a proper line, we don't have time for it this episode, but there you go, our first steam engine. Isn't it beautiful? So we'll be able to work on that next episode. So I shall say goodbye, thank you for watching, and I shall see you next time.